we go. Episode number 2, Expressive Mood. How's everybody doing out there? It's been ridiculously hot here in DC, and I'm just glad to be sitting inside with my non-plugged water right here. Sorry about that. I'm not trying to get sued. That would be bad. So I'm not going to do that. But great water. And if you are not drinking water, drink more. My mom will be very proud of that statement. Now, this is Expressive Mood, as I said previously. For those of you who are joining me via audio only, welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time listening. If you are watching this on YouTube, how you doing? How's everything? Now, today, what am I going to talk about? I am going to be talking about what I love about photography. And this is something that is very personal to me, and I hopefully will not just ramble on about a variety of different things that I love about photography. I'm also going to touch on how I even came to this point, to being a portrait photographer. And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. Hopefully I don't lose your attention. If I do, I'm sorry. And like I said, I'm going to try not to ramble, and I'm going to try to keep this around 10 minutes. So I may talk a little bit quickly toward the end to ensure that I stay on that time mark. Now, my name is Marcus. I didn't say that previously, so I'm saying it now. And I am a freelance portrait kind of event, kind of wedding photographer. My main thing, though, is portraits. And I love portrait photography. It's funny, though, because when I started taking portraits, I never wanted to do portrait photography. I wanted to do abstract photography. I wanted to do something that was different, to show the world in a way that, most people don't. And I've come to find out that when I coupled that with portrait photography, I found the perfect kind of photos that work for me. And that would be called moody for the general photography community, I guess. I call it almost cinematic sometimes because I really aim to build a concept behind my photo shoots. And this came over time. Obviously, when I first started shooting, I shot everything: flowers, dogs, cars, and even portraits. I was really just shooting with anybody and anyone who would get in front of my camera. Now, not saying I don't do collaborations, because I do, and I will touch on that in a different podcast when I talk about the importance of creative collaboration. But when it comes to the photos that I really enjoy, it's the kind of picture that really makes you feel it, and it makes you think. It kind of really relates to the kind of movies that I like to watch too. I love thrillers. Prime example, Nightcrawler was one of the best movies I've seen, not only because it has to do with videography, but it was just a great movie. It had me thinking the entire time, and I love that. And I've now applied that love of thought-provoking content into my own pictures. And it's why when you look at my Instagram feed, at least my main account, it's different. It's not always happy and frilly and standard, what you would call, I guess, Instagram content. It can get very dark. I love using shadows and dramatic lighting. And I like the mood. I like people saying things to me like, wow, that's deep. Or, wow, I really felt that one. And that to me has so much value when it comes to taking an image of a person. Because nowadays, with cell phones as strong as they are, everybody can take a good photo. You may not compose it the right way, like your leading lines might not be perfect or your framing, but it will be a good photo. It takes a different kind of person to shoot a picture that really makes you think. Very similar to dynamic characters in movies. The ones that are the most fascinating to me are the ones that get people to almost hate them for years during the show or movie they're on. Because you have to keep in mind, these are actors. These are people that are invoking emotions out of you with what they're doing within that story. Like, that's incredible to me. I love that. And it is what I love about portrait photography. One thing I say to people that want to work with me all the time is there a side of you that you want to show in these pictures that maybe you've never done before? Maybe you've been too scared to show, or maybe you didn't know if you'd find a photographer that would be okay with that. I'm okay with that. I prefer it. I am not afraid to take photos that some would say are too dark or too deep, or people aren't going to like that on Instagram. It doesn't have enough color, or whatever it may be. To me, Instagram is great. I love the connection. I love the social aspect, but it's so much more than that when it comes to taking portraits. You should take a portrait that really resonates with your audience, regardless of what kind of pictures you're taking. Don't just take a picture to make it look nice. You can do most of that with editing to make it look nice. Take a picture that hopefully one or more people will say, wow, I really had to think about that one. That one's deep. And this is just my opinion. And I'm no guru. I'm no expert. I don't even really make a whole bunch of money. I work a 9-to-5 job. I do make some on the side, but it's not my main source of income. So don't take what I'm saying as the gospel or the only way to do things. This is just my opinion on photography and portraits at that. But I always strive to take pictures that are different, because if we all were taking the same kinds of pictures, photography would get stale. It would get boring. It would be pretty much taking a picture of a blank white wall all the time because it's all exactly the same. Terms like cookie cutter are what I've heard before when people refer to portrait photography sometimes. And it's not fair to the creatives that are creating it in their own vision. It's not fair that they're doing something that the masses of people on social media enjoy looking at. So I don't like the term cookie cutter. I think that's a little offensive. But I do feel that as a photographer, what you should really strive to do is show yourself in your pictures. Show something different. Aim to be different. Aim to show that you are taking these pictures for a bigger reason than to get certain feedback that just says you're technically great at what you do. To me, at least, it just means more. It's more important, in my opinion, to have people come to me and say things like, how did you do that? That angle is crazy, or that lighting is so unique. Those are the comments and feedback that I love. And of course, having people say you take great pictures is always welcomed. And I love those comments. And I absolutely adore all of my supporters and all of my fans and all of the people who have gotten me to this point. But I also really prefer the deep, well thought comments. And the reason for that is not to fluff my ego or make me feel like I'm incredible. It just tells me that the effort I put in to taking those photos was recognized, that you saw the image as something more than just a good picture. That's what I love about photography, is that if you really take the time to do that and plan and show your interpretation of a person or a scene, that every single photo will be different. Like seeing these challenges where you have one model and 5 or 3 photographers all shooting the same model in the same outfit, but seeing 3 completely different results is fascinating to me. It shows that we do look at the world differently. We see things differently, and that's okay. Not everybody's going to like the content that I produce, and I'm okay with that. I would prefer if people have something negative to say to me about it, that they keep it to themselves. However, I'm open to that, obviously, because it's going to happen. it all kind of ties back to what I was just saying previously about the villain in a TV show. For most people, we get very upset, get very angry. Oh, this is my work. How are you going to say these bad things about it? But take a step back. Think about it. You just invoked an emotion in somebody that was so deep, they had to say something to you. That's a powerful thing. And that kind of segues me into a sub point here that I do love the fact that photos can provide that much power to not only the photographer, but also to the model, to empower people through the way they look or by how they feel by looking at your images. It's something that I don't think many things can replicate, right? You can always make more money. If you're unhappy at your job, get a new job. If you think you need to study more, go study. Money comes and goes. But the way you feel about yourself day in and day out, that's priceless. Because guess what? That day you felt something will be different tomorrow. And it was different the day before that. And at that moment, when you're feeling happy or feeling sad, 10 seconds later, it's gone. There's nothing bringing it back. That moment in your life has vanished unless you capture it in a picture. Like, think about that. You have the ability as a portrait photographer to capture individuals within moments in time that if you didn't do it, no one, including themselves, would ever see again. To me, that's fascinating. And I love everything about it. I love working with people. It's why I think when I found portrait photography, it stuck with me. Because every time I shoot with somebody, it's different. You can tell their story 500 different ways, 500 different days. Dr. Seuss, what's up? Like, each individual will have a story to tell. So why not use your creative talent to tell that story? That's what I try to do. And that's the kind of content that I absolutely love. Don't get me wrong. I am all about a technically sound image where the lines are perfect, the colors are on point, and it just looks crisp, and my eyes are happy with the aesthetic that's been produced. But for me, I love when my mind gets involved. When I have to sit there for 5 minutes and say, what were they doing here? And then on top of that, even going to ask the photographer, what were you trying to say here? And hearing their response, it's incredible to me. So that's a little bit into what I love about portrait photography. It's a little bit into what I love to shoot as a portrait photographer. And as many of you know, I don't like to have these long, drawn-out podcasts. So I'm going to go ahead and say goodnight for this one. However, if you do want to connect with me, and maybe one of my images has posed a question in your brain that you want to ask me, please feel free to do that. My social channel will be linked not only in this podcast episode for those of you listening and not watching this on YouTube, but also if you are watching this on YouTube, I will also put it in the description below. If you're a YouTube person, please subscribe to my channel. If you are listening to it, also please subscribe to my podcast. I will be pushing these out every single Sunday. And if you ever have anything you think you want to hear my opinion on, send it my way. I would love to talk about it, and I would love to give my opinion and thoughts. And hopefully I can help the next person who grabbed a camera and said, I want to do something a little different. Hope everybody's staying cool if you're on the mid-Atlantic because it's super hot. This heat wave is crazy. If you're somewhere cool, you're lucky. I wish I was in your shoes, and I will talk to you all soon.